Thank you everyone for joining us in today's show. Today we have Mr. Alex Murucci with us, and I will let him introduce himself first, and then we can go on to the questions. So, Alex, over to you.
Well, thank you for the invitation, Elanja. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm Alexandre Murucci. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, from Brazil. I'm an artist. Also, sometimes I did some positions as a curator. I have a project here in Rio called a Trio Biennial. It's a three-dimensional Rio Biennial. It's an international biennial with many artists. We had two editions already, but the last year, with all the problems around in Brazil, we have a very difficult situation we have now, economic and political especially, and we give up for the last edition, but we hope everything will become again clear and fine again for the next edition. So my kind of work is very conceptual in general. Now I'm more in sculpture, I'm more in objects and installations, but most of them conceptual, and more for political issues, political position than philosophical ones. And so I'm so glad to be here and hope I can help with some positions for all you guys.
All right, great. Thank you so much for the introduction, Alex. I'll jump to the first question that we have for you today, and that is in the context of the current times that we are living in, with this pandemic having locked down virtually every part of the world. Even business has taken a major hit, and in that, art shows and be it biennales, even anything that requires a physical space and involves people coming in together, does not seem to be a possibility for a very long, for at least for the foreseeable future. In that kind of a situation, how do you think artists can deliver art for the audience to consume? And a little follow-up question to that is that so a lot of artists are presenting their artworks in digital format. Do you think experiencing art in digital can ever sort of replace experiencing art in physical form?
Well, I'm from a generation before yours. Then everything comes from me in the books. So, and talking about the purpose of art or produce art or the needing to do art is what is the appeal for art production? People are now locked at house, closed in their house, and if you love art, you're gonna be always this desire to be surrounded by art. And this will make the market, any kind of market, survive, because people, at least, they need art for their souls. So this is one point. The second point, and I spent many years before I have something I already saw in a book. I have a few collections, a few pieces in my collections. Then I spent so many years to get this. I also spent at least 20 years to find physically all this. It was before the big fairs. It was before the internet market. And at that point, I spent all these years waiting my time to see physically art. And it was before the big fairs. And but this new normal that everything seems to go through internet, I think will be a great opportunity, because by one point, will be more democratic. And if everybody goes to the internet to show their works, and especially the new generations have more tools for that, maybe it will be more democratic. And maybe I think the big galleries, like you say about Saatchi is already a democratic place, hub, because they have a space for everyone. I think many of the big names will be more like that, and maybe they're gonna have several levels of artists, and with for any kind of clients, not just for the big names and for the big clients and high level of investments, and maybe it would be more democratic for everyone.
So another thing that I would probably want to add from my side is that, so you said that content delivery would be more democratized, which is something that I completely agree with. The other thing is that internet being so open, a lot of locations in our world, artistic expression finds a lot of resistance from governments and policymakers. At times, there is a lot of intervention from the politics and the governments, etc. I think with delivery coming from the internet as a channel, I think artists would be more open and more free to express themselves and not. So, for example, if I wanted to display a very politically oriented kind of an artwork in a physical gallery, let's say in a particular location, which comes under the jurisdiction of a certain government, which does not allow free will or free expression, that is always going to be a problem, as opposed to me trying to do the same thing over internet, because over the internet, a government would have much lesser control.
Well, in that point, I think the institutions, and as far they can walk on these limits in each country, will be very important to give voice for that kind of position from artists. Well, I'm optimist about this. I won't be, because we have trouble enough to be pessimist now. So I think we need to find, we're gonna need to try to find the best way to place our art in any kind of in any position. In the next months, we're gonna see a new arrangement of all artwork. Now, because I knew that big galleries are inviting middle market galleries to show their, like really big names, to show middle galleries to show their artists, because they know they need to make the ecosystem of art alive, and they can't be just with their millionaires clients in line.
Okay, great insight. Thank you, Alex, for that. I will quickly move on to the second question that we had, and this is again in context of the current times and COVID-19, etc. So once this new normal sets in, do you see the business of art sort of evolving? At least in India, we have the channel of physical art galleries and gallery curators and art dealers, and then there are the buyers. They can be institutional collectors or retailers and so on and so forth. But now all of a sudden there are these .com companies which are coming up, which are sort of like the Amazon for art exclusively, and and all of a sudden they are sort of getting a lot of eyeballs and clicks basically. So a lot of transactions happening in the online channel. So those kind of changes, do you see the business of art sort of changing ways in some ways after after COVID-19?
Yeah. One more time, I think we need to wait what the big players gonna do with this competition, in the first moment, and how far this new kind of business will show enough in the good way, in a clear way, and in a profitable way, all kind of art. Because in the first moment it will be a mess. How a big company as Amazon could make a curatorship to show because people deserve every kind of art. If you have a naive art, for my mother still love more naive art than my contemporary ones, because well, it's from that age, from that time, from that environment. So we have audience for every kind of art. So, but when you put a naive or a work from a new artist that in information, still in information, with some very formal and big produced art, especially when these artists have money enough to make big productions, big installations, something that will be impress the audience. How can you compete with in the same level? This will be one point. And that the problem is the next 5 years with all this possibility of big pandemic problems. It's not scientists are talking that this is the first big level. We're going to be lots of with all the global warming, the problems that the stupid people never understand that is the result of that. So if these waves of bad times come again, we need to know how far all this market will be more important than health and money for food and a democratic ways for a good living for everybody. We won't have money this year for anything because they put all money in the hospital, and they are right. We need that now. And after that, we will realize that we need money for people living in good house to have water, clean water, to have all the sanitizing, everything that make the world runs in a good way, because they will finally know that if people don't live in a good way, don't live in a healthy way, they're gonna need to stop their market, their business, for many lock it down again, and then they will realize that they need to put money on that kind of stuff. For a while, we need to think that we need to be strong enough to don't think about the big market. Try to put our eyes in all kind of surviving line, but at the same time think I'm an artist and I need that to breathe. I'm gonna still produce and I'm gonna doing my work because I need that as a human being. This is a point, and I'm really close with that now. Mm-hmm. But of course, we need to be strong and smart to find how the big world of art could give us in the next few months and probably the next three years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Alex. Those were the two questions that we had for you today. We thank you for spending time with us and for sharing the insights with us.